Your pictures. Kelly, you ready? Okay. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. We do have a quorum present. Meeting has been duly called. Appropriate notice has been given. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight, and we'll go ahead and stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we have our public comment section. I checked the check-in sheet and I noticed there was none there, so we can go ahead and move on to the approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda for tonight.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. We'll move on to our board work session. Ms. Dewey?
All right. First of all, thank you all. This is, I think I've said it several times, academics is the cornerstone of our work. It is the most important thing that we do. It is the lens that we have to look through with making decisions. As far as our administration, that's number one. And so tonight, we kind of want to do a little more of a deep dive into some of that academic language that you've heard, some of the programs and processes that you've approved as far as expenses. And we just want to show you what we're doing. The first thing tonight is school letter grades. So we did have some celebrations over the past, I guess was that a week ago? A week ago. It was the Friday following the board meeting. We had heard those were supposed to come out on Friday, and sure enough they did. So I want to take some time just to explain how those are done. So this is actually the slideshow that Miss Morgan and somebody may have been on the Zoom when we went to Hot Springs for the ASBA's Fall Leadership Conference. This is part of this PowerPoint is from Hope Borsham, who is the accountability in Little Rock and Desi. So 3 priorities have been developed for Arkansas's new accountability system. This is the letter grade system. Achievement. We want students who are achieving on level 3 and 4 of the state assessment. So that's saying they are not only level 3, they are on grade level. Level 4 would be above grade level. That's the easiest way to explain that. The next thing they're looking at is growth. So it's growth for all students, and then it's growth of that bottom 25%. That's your learners who are struggling the most. Are they growing like they should academically? So then the last thing is that success-ready graduates, and this is your high school campuses only. For us, it's our 8th through 12th campus, Mountain Home High School Career Academies. So that's your 8th through 12th graders for us. A lot of this determines the grade configuration of your buildings as to where you'll be scored, and we'll go into that in just a little bit longer, in a little bit. So students graduating on time in 4 years, and that is from the day that they enter 9th grade. And then students demonstrate a post-secondary readiness. You've heard the 3: enlistment, enrollment, and employment. This includes diplomas of merit and distinction, which you'll begin to hear more about over the next few years. Those are those completers in very specific CTE pathways, career and technical education pathways. This is students who are achieving and receiving more than 12 concurrent classes, concurrent hours. Yeah, I'm a little, so if I say something that sounds crazy, please stop me. Like 12 concurrent classes, 12 concurrent hours. It would also be students who are achieving an associate's degree. There are some other things that I can get more specific with, but they're kind of giving us, well, they are giving us a couple of years to catch up on this. I'll show you that in just a minute. I don't want to get too far ahead. So this is what elementary and middle school looks like. There are 900 possible points that an elementary or a middle school can get on their school report card. Achievement, so that would be you can get up to 100 points in proficiency on language arts, 100 points for proficiency in math, 100 points for proficiency in science. So that percentage just translates to points. So that's the kids that are getting a 3 or 4. Whatever percentage is in your building, that just translates to points. Growth for all students. Every student has a growth target. And they've calculated that over time. They even say they can use 2 different measures of accountability because, you know, we are transitioning to where all our kids are taking Atlas, which this year should, Ms. Lawrence, this year our second graders that went to 3rd grade should have a growth score because they took Atlas. So if you'll look, the percentage that met their target in ELA or ELP, and that's English language proficiency. So those learners that are working, maybe they are from out of the country and speak a different language and they've joined us. This is, are they growing as well? Percentage that met the target in math for growth, percentage that met the target for science. So once again, those percentages of proficiency or the percent of students who met their growth goal just translates into points. And then growth of the lowest 25%, exactly the same as above. And that lowest 25% is determined based on the year before's Atlas scores.
So that appears that they count twice.
You're exactly right. Actually, they could even count 3 times if they grew enough to become a 3 or 4. Or let's say there's a school with very few students who are in that lowest 25%. Not few students, but few students who aren't meeting proficiency. A really high achieving school. So you're exactly right. Growth is super important. Another piece we were talking about was a student, even an advanced learner, is going to count twice because they're going to reach achievement and they have to meet their growth target. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Before we go to that, I'm going to go ahead and share with you Hackler's actual letter grade and how it was and how it came about. And I think you have a digital copy that I just shared with you. This good one. So this is a letter grade simulator calculator. Does everybody have one? And then we've got extra that we can pass down to principals or Mr. Luter if you'd like one. So if you'll look at what I shared with you, this is the letter grade calculator for Hackler. So I took their actual scores that they received in each area. So Hackler's score also is the score for your kindergarten and for Nelson Wilkes. Feeder schools right now get the same score as the first school that basically takes the true Atlas test, summative test. So their score, kindergarten and Nelson Wilkes, is exactly the same as Hackler. You'll also notice here in a minute the cut scores at the bottom. May be interesting to you to see, you know, how far are we from an A? How far are we from a B? Even though elementary and middle school is calculated the same, the cut scores are different. So I'll share a middle school example with you in just a minute. Also at the top, I want to point out, in meeting target, in total growth, that excluding mobile. It says excluding mobile, that's your highly mobile population. If a student is not on our campus, registered and in class on October 1, they do not count. So, that's another thing to look at and think about.
So if somebody moves in at
Yeah.
semester, they don't count,
Good or bad,
good or bad?
they come out of this total, which I'd love for the good ones to count, right?
Sure.
The ones that are achieving. But this wasn't something that, when the state was looking at accountability, our kids that are moving in and out, I mean, you could have a kid come in and out 3 or 4 times and go to 3 or 4, they're gonna go 3 or 4 elementaries in between, and who do they count for? As far as their achievement, that doesn't mean we don't have a score for them. Just means they're not counting on the letter grade calculation. So, down here on, you'll see the end meeting target, so that's the number of students meeting their target. And then that's the total in total. So divide the 2 and you get your percentage, of course. And then add those up and you'll get your total score at the bottom. They've really tried to simplify it, and I think it's as simple as I've ever seen accountability be calculated. You do see, just like Ms. Partney pointed out, the overall growth, and then the overall growth of the lowest 25%. Those kids are they are being counted twice, for sure, no matter what. Because that 140 is in that overall growth number. If I look at growth of lowest 25% ELA, English Language Arts, it's 140. Those 140 kids are being counted in every category. They're being counted in overall growth, and they're being counted in my in total for achievement. So you might notice, well, why are those numbers different? Right? Why is that achievement number and that overall growth? Why are those in totals different? Well, I mentioned to you before, highly mobile. So actually, when I looked this up today, the total students that tested was about 844. So 44 of those kids were not on our campus October 1. But then if you look down, overall growth of ELA and ELP is 774. That is because you have kids that moved in before October 1 that maybe weren't in Arkansas the year before. So that's getting a little bit in the weeds, but if somebody asks, has to do with kids moving in and out. Also, the growth of the lowest 25%, I don't know what I was going to say there. Oh, science, overall growth in science. 3rd graders do not have a science test until 3rd grade. So that's why that 535, why that is so low. There's no way to judge their growth because they're on score. Okay, so that's the letter grade calculator for Hackler.
But your achievement section are
Oh, did I give y'all the
your
wrong
3s and
No,
4s?
no, no, like, my
Ma'am.
numbers do not match.
Here you go, I gave him the wrong sheet.
I could tell by the look on his face, he was
Like,
pretty confused.
what in the world were you?
Miss Partney.
The top section that says achievement, ELA, achievement
Yes,
math,
ma'am.
those are our students that are 3s and 4s.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the percentage of growth.
The percentage of students who showed growth. Yes, ma'am.
So our lowest 25% looks like they showed more growth
Wait till you see this one.
than our 3s and 4 kids.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm gonna go ahead, this is Kingston. You'll be able to see now. One of the things, Ms. Partney, I'm gonna be able to share with you in just a minute. Our overall growth is an area that we need to take notice of. We're seeing a lot of growth in that lowest 25%, but even when we look at percentiles across the state, which we're gonna be meeting with all the principals this week,
Oh, I can do that.
that is something that I think they'll notice immediately.
Our NWEA data showed that too in 2021 and
I
2022.
didn't get it on the extra one.
High achievement, low growth, high achievement, low growth. We saw it.
So that's,
I
it's
think
not
those
a
are
new
the
trend,
principles.
but it definitely appears to be. So, on middle school, this is exactly the same as far as how it's figured.
Okay, but the cut lines are different.
Your cut lines are different, so you'll notice your A, I believe, at the elementary, and I'll show you more, is 523. Your low A is 519 on Pinkston's, on the middle school. So this is the letter grade calculator for middle school. Calculations are the same, cut scores are a bit different.
Why?
I didn't make that rule. I don't
I
know.
mean,
It has to do with a bell curve.
It's a little
And if
harder.
you look at number of middle schools,
What does a small district do that has K through 12 in one building?
okay, so they're gonna be, I don't know about K through 12. K-7, there's different, and I could get on and show you, but there are multiple categories to show you where you would fall. So if you are a P1 building, you're a feeder school. If you're a P5 building, you're an elementary. If you are a 7-8, you're a middle school. I mean, there are tons of different configurations across the state of buildings, and that determines where you fall. And I can't speak to where everybody falls because I'll get it
Yeah.
wrong. But I'm amazed when I see the paragraph of different possible grade configurations just for elementary, and then all the possible grade configurations for middle.
So the cut scores weren't published until, hey, they had all the data, and then they said bell curve, hey, where do we put the cut set?
So last year, last year was a holding year for letter grades. 24 was a holding year. And what they did was they came out, I'm gonna say it wasn't quite spring, so February, March, and said, here is where your districts would fall if we were using this new accountability model. So they had almost a calculator that you could play with. And they put your scores in, and then they determined, like you said, they had the scores before the cut scores. Which folks will get 519 is not 90%. 519 of 900 is not a 90%. So this is not traditional as far as 90 to 100 is an A, as far as percentage of points earned. So this is Pinkston. And you'll notice they have maintained a B. They did go up a little bit this year as far as points. And we actually have a tool where we can determine how many kids need to be in each category to get them to the percentage points, the points that they need to be an A for every single school. So that's kind of cool too. All right, so high school. And like I said, our high school is 8-12, so our 8th graders actually count in our high school's letter grade. You'll see achievement, just like the elementary, percentage of proficiency. What's different here is the tests. ELA is going to test 8th, 9th, and 10th grade. That'll be that'll be a summative exam. Principals, if I say something wrong, correct me. In math, they're going to have an 8th grade. They're going to have a algebra end of course and a geometry end of course. So that's a little different. Science, they're going to have an 8th grade science. Then they're not going to have anything until they take biology. So they're only going to have 2. So it's not like at Hackler where 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade are taking a language reading test, a math test, and a science test. There are some kids that won't test at all in the 10th grade if they're advanced and they already had all their math done, they had their algebra, geometry, and biology taken. Well, they would take English, wouldn't they? That's all they would take. Because you do have to take 10th grade English. I guess if you got ahead and already had English 2 done. So, So then you'll see met growth target. Exactly like elementary, just the tests are the 8th, 9th, 10th, end of course for language arts, the math being 8th grade math, algebra, and geometry, and then science being 8th grade general science and biology. Now here's where things change a little. Everything is still based on 900 points. So I've already shown you 600 of those points. Here's where the next 300 come from. They average together the growth of the lowest 25% in ELA, math, and science. So they take all three, have an average, and that's your points here. Graduating in the 4-year cohort, and this is what we call a lagging indicator. So this will be based on the previous year. So the scores that you're going to see today for the letter grade for 2025, those are your 2024 graduates. And you're going to see a typo on what I'm going to hand to you because I used a calculator that was for 2023. But you'll see the 24 graduates. You'll also see this graduating with merit or distinction. And here's the note that I wanted to point out. The way they are calculating this is until 2027. So on the 2028 letter grade, I'm backwards on that. Until 2027, this is the method that they're going to use. It is percentage of graduates completing 3 or more AP, IB, or concurrent classes. So AP are those advanced placement classes. We don't have any international baccalaureate classes, and this is concurrent credits. This all changes for the class of, make sure I get this right, for the class 26 counts this way, but 27 does not. Is that correct, Ms. Russell? Okay, so what happens for the class of 27, which would be reported in 28, I know I'm getting a little, this list changes a little bit. It's percentage of graduates that finish 12 or more concurrent classes, 12 or more hours of concurrent classes. It's percentage of, it's your number of kids, and it's actually a number, and then they take the percentage of your total graduates based on the number of total graduates. This would be, yes, it's great if you took 3 AP classes, but what did you score on your test? So you have to be a scholar or a distinguished scholar or which means you have to average a 3 or more on all of your tests. That's the simplest way to put it. That was that list of names you all saw when they went over the AP kids that came. We only had a few that showed up, but there was a list of about 25 kids. Also, the H2 concentrators become H2 completers, and that's getting a little tricky, and we're going to be working on that. That is the CTE, the career and technical. You have to not only complete certain programs of study, am I on the right track, Ms. Cotter? But you also have to take what's considered an industry certification, am I right? And pass it.
Demonstrate competency.
You have to demonstrate competency. You don't just show up for the 3 classes. And this isn't all our CTE pathways. This is a very small group. I say small, there's 12, 15, 18, something like that are available. You just got to get kids in them and get the classes taken in the correct order. This is something we're going to be working on. We have a really good number right now, but I got some numbers based on what we would be if we were following the rules that will be in place. And we're going to meet in the next couple of days to look at that. So here is, and this is a celebration. And we knew it was going to be, but, well, I felt like it was going to be. I didn't know. I was playing with numbers. But our high school has gone from a C to a B. So that means 7 of our grade levels are sitting at a B. I thought, how can you've got 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. All have the letter grade at B based on their test scores. Let me pass that down.
You betcha.
So you'll see here, one of the things that, pass that one down too, one of the things that that we're doing well, we are seeing, look at that overall growth in math, just to highlight a few areas. 57% of our kids met what they needed to grow did what they needed to do to show growth in math. Science, 53%. Super proud. It is very pale. It's hard to see that growth of the lowest 25%, but you can, if you kind of hold your paper right, you can see the percentages in that column because they averaged to 56% overall with growth of that lowest 25%. But guys, 60% of the kids in that lowest 25% grew in science. 61% grew in that lowest 25% in math. That's huge. And that's why they have a B.
Okay. Last year we were a C. What was the score last year?
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
They're up a good 40 points, I think. And I can get that to you.
No, I just,
They were a high C, but it was like, they were 15, I do know what it is. They were 15 points from a B.
Okay.
So whatever 457 minus 15 is. Because I knew with their achievement going up as much as it did, they had the points in achievement.
they almost gained 40 points.
They went way up. You'll see the graduation rate there, the 280 out of 304, 92%. And then progress towards merit and distinction, about half of those kids. That number, like I said, is based on the current rules that will be changing and being modified. Also, that is the grad cohort of 24. That's a typo. There at the bottom. And then the progress towards merit and distinction of 24, because this is your 25 letter grade. So it's a lagging indicator 1 year before. If and when you go on to the Department of Ed has published these letter grades, one of the things you'll see is pending appeal, pending appeal, pending appeal by multiple schools. In rules, this year can be a hold harmless rule, which means if your letter grade went down from where it was last year, you can appeal, and more than likely you will receive the same letter grade you had the year before. So I would assume, and I may be wrong, and this is live streamed, and if somebody knows differently, please tell me. If you see pending appeal next to a high school that has an A, they've received a B. Because you wouldn't need to appeal if your grade was higher, right? So, and if we were in that position, we'd do the same thing. If our letter grade had gone down, we would want to appeal that and figure out how to get it up as well. So, what I've done here is, this is an example of the dashboard that is going to be available. It is not available yet, but I screenshotted what I had access to for you all. This is Pinkston Middle School. So let's say you want to know what Mountain Home, this is actually, is this high school? Which one did I do?
This is Mountain Home Career Academy.
I know, but I thought I did the other one. Okay, so this is a mistake again, which is okay. It's okay. The front page is high school, but the rest of the pages are Pinkston.
Yeah.
This is, I messed up on this one. I tried to fix this a couple of times and continued to mess it up. But this is, the front page is Mountain Home Career Academies. And then I believe these are middle school, is that right? But what's really cool, it doesn't, honestly, you've got the numbers. What's really neat to be able to see is the percentile rank across the state. So you'll be able to see the ELA points, just like I showed you with the number that achieved over the total number. This is Pinkston's. And see that ELA was 39.3 points. And my goodness, they want it to be higher than that. They were so disappointed by the achievement because they felt like it was going to be higher. But look where they rank in the state. A 66 percentile. You see the math, 76 percentile, and then science, 70th percentile in achievement. You're going to be able to see that for every single category. So this is very telling. Growth, same thing. And I think this is also Pinkston. And then growth of your lowest 25th percent. All right, so that is letter grades. Is there anything else You know, one of the things when talking about, I got to sit on a Zoom at some point about what people want to see in accountability across the state. We have a community that when you say I feel like if somebody told me there's 900 points possible and this is how many points we got, and here's the 9 categories, that's it. That seems simple. It's not. But when we were doing the school quality standards that did percentages based on attendance, which all of you in here know, a kindergartner cannot determine whether or not they get to school. And yet that was counting against achievement scores and letter grades for elementary schools. I feel like this is a very fair representation of the work that we're doing. Growth is achieved. A kid may not be able to ever become achieving as far as a 3 or a 4, but you know what they can do? Improve every single year. And this allows for our teachers and for our community to see that our kids are growing academically. And that's one of the things I love about this. All right. Clear as mud?
I think a lot of the stakeholders are gonna not understand how 900 possible points,
Yeah.
but you get 480 points, and that's a B, or 500 and something out of 900, and that's an A. So there's gonna need to be some educating parents and stakeholders, I think, of what this means. That 530 points is an A out of 900. How does that work, right? That's
Yeah.
because I think 90%,
90.
80 to 90,
Yeah.
et cetera.
What's that new math?
That's probably, if you want to look at a downside, that would probably be, I agree, that is a little bit like, what? But now, as far as the educator side of this, you know what you have to get to be considered a B or A school.
Do you foresee them raising those numbers?
Not for a while. I think the more schools that become A schools and B schools, I do think they will.
But that cut score can change year to year, so as districts get into these numbers, where can we make a difference, and everyone starts moving up, well, that cut score is gonna move
It
too,
may,
right?
but that means that we're all just getting better.
Right.
Right? That means that, hey, keep moving the bar higher. The promise is, it won't be for a while because of the way that the state, how it's spread out. It truly is a bell curve.
So if we get a 480 next year, we won't be a C with a 480, right, the same score.
Which one?
I'm just saying high school.
No, sir,
so-
I don't believe, not next year.
Like, hey, that
Not
cut
next
score's not
year.
gonna change, it's just an example, but
Yeah.
hey, our score stayed the same year to year, but our grade letter dropped because the
And
cut
it-
score changed.
Over time, I could see it changing.
Okay,
Over
but not for a
time.
while. Okay.
But they're saying not for a while.
Okay.
But that's,
Is this the government talking?
you know, you can't, I think we've all said, if you don't know where you're headed, how do you know how to get there, right? If you don't have a specific goal, how do you know? That was another complaint, was, I'm telling you, that trying to figure out that student quality, that's hard. That's a page in itself. And then it was achievement. And so this really does show the work that our folks are doing, especially in that growth of bottom 25%. And that's not a secret either. We can look right now, and there is a way to find which of your kids is in your lowest 25%. Like, everybody in this room has already got those kids identified, or can identify them quickly. That to me is really a good thing as well.
You know, we've talked previously about the attendance numbers factoring in and how that's really not fair because the
Mhm.
district has no
Nope.
direct say in that, the students have no direct say in it. That low, this 25% is probably the attendance scores hidden in that number because those are the students that are not showing up regularly. They're gonna be the ones in that lower 25%, so. It's still, it's still something that needs to be improved if we can, how do you do it?
Absolutely.
But that's where that's hidden at.
One of the things is they begin to talk in the fiscal session in Little Rock. attendance and how to calculate your daily membership, meaning how many kids, this is how many are enrolled and this is how many are showing up, could at some point, and does in some states, affect funding. So, that, and I do think there will be a new funding formula soon. And it would, I don't know how they'll calculate, you know, right now we're getting, we budget based on last year's enrollment. Because how can you budget for the year ahead, not knowing how many kids are gonna show up in September or in August? So there's lots of things like that flying around, just like you said, Mr. Booth, and I guarantee those states where that is a calculation, part of the calculation for funding, they're knocking on doors and getting kids to school.
Truancy officers are coming back in stock.
Okay. That's all you have for that right now?
I do, that's all I have for this right now.
We'll take a short break, grab a snack, and then we'll come back and we'll hear from our building principals, go a little deeper into this, so.
Okay, we are gonna talk just a little bit about what's actually happening in the buildings now that we have the information. One of the questions we were asked, from the school board is, well, what are you doing? What are you doing different? What are you doing, if you have some areas now that you know could be improved, what's your action step? So that's kind of what we're gonna speak to tonight, just try not to go too far in, because we know there's, I tend to talk a little bit too much. So, but a really good snapshot of what we're doing, I'm gonna show you a couple of things that will hopefully just give you a little bit of a picture. Our teachers are working in their collaborative teams, which are by content area, to really nail down what we call essential standards, or what do our students have to know from that grade in order to be successful in the next grade. That's just the easiest way to kind of boil that down. And so the State Department does guide us a little bit. That Atlas is testing us on, they call them blueprint standards. And that does give us a little bit more of an area to focus on. But really, if you ask our teachers, how are you choosing your essential standards, it's because like they cannot go to the next grade and not know this information. They have to know this and know it to mastery. And so this is just a really good little graphic that we called our learning ladder. But our teachers are really taking our students through the simple idea of an essential standard, working them through that standard until they get to the most complex part of the standard. And they stop, a ladder is a good representation because they stop at certain intervals of time and do like a checkpoint to see, are they getting it? We call those learning targets. So if they're not getting it on the lower rung of the ladder, they're not gonna get the complex piece of the ladder. So they are checking for understanding along the way. They do that with what we call common formative assessments. And then they work their way towards the end of the standard, and that would be assessed with what we call a common summative assessment. All those pieces of information are what our teachers are working together on their teams, trying to decide, okay, if 5 students didn't get learning target 2, what are we gonna do for the 5 because the 20 got it? And those are all the conversations they're having together, stopping to intervene if they need to. We have response days if they need an extra day of learning. There's a lot of complex learning even within the collaborative teams with the teachers. So that is guiding the work around instructional decisions, how we're spending our instructional time, how we're working with certain groups of students who need small group instruction, different pieces like that. The next slide is just a little bit of a snapshot. Y'all already got, before we click on the dashboard again, this summer when teachers were working together on their flex days with their teams, they were asked to put their work together into these 2 templates. And what you'll see that curriculum pacing at a glance, that's our academic calendar for the year. And what they did is they grade out days that are not going to be instructional days, like Thanksgiving, the Friday after parent-teacher conferences, spring break, Christmas break, all those things are grayed out. So what you're left with are our actual instructional days with the students. And then they pace out on that calendar how their essential standards are going to run for the year. And when we put in our testing dates, what you know, you better have those essential standards covered before your summative test. So it really does guide a lot of instructional choices when you look at it on a calendar. You don't have as many days as you want sometimes to get through the requirements. So the other piece is that curriculum, the map out right there, that's where they're putting their essential standards. You'll see when you click into certain teams of work on the dashboard, you'll see their learning targets, their resources, different things like that. You'll see their CFAs. And then to make one layer on top of that, they work with a data wall on top of that. But we've kind of held the data walls restricted just because there's a lot of student information on there. If you click on that word dashboard, what you'll see is that just takes you right back to what we've already shared. But that is, you can see our district at a glance, building by building, and you can see their essential standards, their pacing guides, their data walls are linked, they're closed. But that's the work. So if you're saying, well, what are you doing? That's a really long answer, but these are just the layers of work that are going on And all of those pieces really are what we would call tier 1 instruction. And so I brought our friends here. They're going to talk to you about just within their buildings. What are we doing for the students that need more support? And this slide has just kind of at a glance, every building has a little bit different strategy around that work, and a lot of that has to do with their master schedule and the number of staff they have in the building. So this is kind of at a glance by building, but what I thought is could just have an opportunity to speak to their own building and just give you guys a little bit of an update on what that intervention piece is looking like for our students that might need a little bit more support. Kindergarten, I'll speak for Kevin. They don't have a lot of data at the beginning at kindergarten. They are doing some Atlas screening and interims and summatives now, which is new, but they don't have data to start the year with. They do dibbles at the beginning, and so their intervention is a little bit more what they would call point in time. And so they may see a student needs a little bit of extra help, maybe just learning letter sounds. But after 3 or 4 weeks of really intense intervention and classroom work, they're ready to roll out of that. They got it. So there's a lot of trying to pinpoint exactly, is it learning deficit or do they just need more time in that? And so kindergartens is a little bit different, but their certified teachers and their parents are all working on intervention, and every pod in that building has an intervention time. Nelson Oaks, I'll let you guys go next.
So we're about to speak. But we switched this up this year. Previously, we had multiple times of intervention. This year, we went with grade level intervention blocks. And a big change that we've had been able to kind of share students in our intervention time based off of the needs. We have our certified teachers this year will be doing COD and Dibbles 8 for that intervention time. And we have paras and specials teachers who are taking those students that need an extension and doing lessons with that.
So we did a lot of work front loading this process with the student data. We had a committee of both principals. Judy came to a lot of our meetings, Sarah Trivet, our dyslexia specialist, and we looked at data for every single kid in our building, and we hand placed every kid based on their beginning of the year data of where they are, where the best fit would be. So we have 3 teachers in our building running a new program called Build. So we do anticipate getting good results from that. We're really excited to see what that's going to look like. We have also a few certified teachers doing Apple Connections for our students who are identified characteristics of dyslexia, but then all of the other students who are not scoring proficient at the beginning of the year have been placed in an intense intervention group with a certified teacher. And they were placed within their pod based on their scores, so that the discrepancy of scores within that group is very low. They're all working around the same range at the same point in time. And we have identified the specific lessons that they need to be working on to work to fill those gaps of instruction that we have and the deficits that we are seeing. And so we will see at some point that some groups are going to be able to move faster, some groups will need a little more help, but we are going to reevaluate that and redo that again. It's right at about the 6-week mark of our start date. We also have kids who are on level and a little bit higher going to groups with our interventionists, and we have been providing higher level comprehension reading lessons with read aloud stories for those interventionists to do. But the thought behind that is that our certified teachers are doing the most explicit, intense instruction with the kids that need it. So they're running, most of the teachers are running 2 groups of 4 kids, Monday through Thursday.
Can you remind me what COD is again?
Characteristics of dyslexia.
Because I was ready to get my wallet out.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
So that's Nelson Wilkes.
So Dibbles 8
Yeah.
is something that each year you all approve, purchase of Dibbles.
And we tried to get away from Dibbles, but our information from Atlas was not, coming in a timely manner. And our teachers were really needing some hard and fast data, and Dibbles has just been kind of tried and true. So we are doing that still, K1 and 2.
So it's still a valuable resource. for
Oh,
them.
yes.
We are very thankful for it.
And it says Dibbles 8, certified teachers doing characteristics dyslexia and Dibbles 8. It also comes with materials.
the
Those
intervention.
explicit intervention lessons for the decoding piece. They're using those.
And then you can progress monitor within that too. The whole system is really geared for checking to see if the students are showing progress or not showing progress.
So students that are moving more quickly, you'll get them, so these groups are fluid, they'll move out and
Yes,
get to a
yes.
different group.
Yes.
And then the ones that are moving more slowly, you're making decisions on that. I mean, that's true, RTI. Good
Yes.
job. That's
One of the
awesome.
things I've also noticed, we've asked, what are you doing differently? We've been asked that, and that's a wonderful
Great
question,
question.
because that's how you get better, right?
Mhm.
You gotta switch things up. There's not an option. This is what we're doing in intervention. It's tried and true, it's research-based. This is the materials we're going to use. for
And they
intervention.
have, Ms. Clayton has helped, and our gifted and talented teacher at Nelson Wilkes has helped supply those extension lessons for students that are going with either a specialist teacher or an interventionist. So they're trying to extend their learning as well, so.
And how often are you going to evaluate these students?
It will be the first 6 weeks. We really wanted to give an opportunity for the decoding deficits for those students to fill those gaps, and then we're gonna reevaluate at the 6-week mark. Now, and that's not to say that it was gonna be every 6 weeks. We may decide that it needs to be more often than that. But research shows that 6 weeks is about the correct mark to reevaluate, especially at this age level.
Any more questions for Nelson Wilkes? Okay. All right, Ms. Goodwin?
Okay. Hackler, we implemented a building-wide intervention this year. So we have students going all over the building, which has been a huge undertaking, and definitely a team effort within our building. So we looked at students that also needed COD services, and we looked at what teachers we had that were able to provide those, what classroom teachers. We do still have some paras providing that intervention as well. We also have paras coming from other buildings within the district to help with that, so we're very grateful for that. And we kind of we looked at our kids that needed the most intervention and worked up from there. So we looked at Atlas scores, who was level 1. We looked when our 3rd graders got on campus, we looked at beginning and end of the year for 2nd grade, and the beginning of the year for 3rd grade, their Dibble scores, because we had those. And so there were a lot of data decisions that went into that. And so we have students in COD intervention, we have students we have 18 95% group, which 95% group is the intervention program. We have 18 students in 18 groups, and we have 6 groups, 6 students in each group. So we have 3 groups in 3rd grade, 3 groups in 4th grade, and 3 groups in 5th grade. We've applied for the HIT grant, so we are very, very optimistic and hopeful that we get that, because we already have students chosen for that intervention program. And then we will move to our next level of students that need intervention. Right now, they are in intervention, practicing needed skills, but we want to personalize that even more. Our students that are on or above grade level are going to extensions that have been organized and planned by Ms. Griffin, and those are being carried out with our special teachers, our school counselors, anybody that is available during this time. They are with students. We also have a really big AR push within the building this year, so our whole goal is to get more books in hand and student hands, and so Ms. Thompson, our new media specialist, has taken a really big role in that and rolling that out for us. Just some things that we have done in the first few weeks of school. We've doubled all of our third grade students. We have, we get approved for IXL, which is an intervention piece that we use, AR, so Star Reader. We've done those assessments on all students. We've done iReady assessments, beginning of the year assessments on all students. And then we've completed our beginning of the year Atlas interims. So it's been a very busy time of collecting data and making instructional plans for our students.
How many third graders are not on grade level
For ELA,
overall?
oh.
Well, we do it by content area.
Right, so if we're just looking, when I look at the most recent Atlas scores, which we have in, our literacy, we have, for third grade, we have 46%, 49% at level 1, 36% at level 2, 12% at level 3, and 2% at level 4 for beginning of the year Atlas testing. If we look at our IXL, which is our literacy that we use as an intervention piece, and it reports students' reading level, and we look at Star Reader, those two assessments correlate with each other, and the information on our third grade students there would be that we have about 50% on or above grade level, and then 50% far below or below grade level.
So if we had to take the evaluation for the reading test right now to see how many kids would advance to the fourth grade, how many would pass?
Well, you can't.
Well, it's a little bit hard to
you
do
can't.
that because
That's
there are a
beginning
lot
of the year.
I understand.
plans.
So what you would, if I was gonna ask the I would say, how many would we have retained last year? Because you wanna know end of year.
Okay. How many would we
Yeah.
retain last year?
Well, last year on the Atlas assessment for third grade, at the end of the year, I do not have that.
It's 70 kids. Now
Yes. But those would be,
then there would be exemptions.
there would be exemptions for students that have plans built around them, IEPs, characteristics of dyslexia,
Mhm.
things like that.
So I think what do we have? Do we half that?
It would
Give or take,
have,
when we
yeah,
looked
give
at
or
it.
take, it would have been around 15 this past year, 15 to 20 is what I looked at. That's a very rough number.
The only reason I knew that number off the top of my head was they had given it to me at the co-op
Mhm.
just a few days ago, and I had used it to make some notes today
It's
because
less than
Ms. Goodwin knew the
10%.
number. Once you take the good cause exemptions,
It's less than 10%.
right
Cause I
now,
heard statewide it was about 30%.
I mean,
Of course, we're taking into the Delta area and.
I'd say that's, the reason, and I wasn't trying to be rude on the beginning of the year, that Atlas interim data, that's where, they took a test on where they're gonna be at the end of the year.
Mhm.
So right now, they're not ready for end of year. I mean,
The 10%
obviously.
is about 30 students.
Yeah, it's a few, cause that's a
So
small.
we-
You said 15 to 20 students.
How many students in the third grade?
Around 250.
Oh,
60.
okay.
And we've
So
had-
10%
Going on to
would be
300.
We
25.
did even training on what that third grade promotion piece, we actually did that.
And so
today
they do,
for
they
our
call it third grade
teachers.
promotion now, not, or
Mhm.
fourth grade promotion, not third grade retention.
And so our.
It's based on the reading or the ELA score?
ELA,
ELA.
end of year
which has
ELA.
writing included.
So that's writing too.
So the whole key piece and the reason we do so much documentation is you can do good cause exemption, but you have to prove that that student has had intervention and is showing progress. Even if the progress hasn't gotten them to the level that you want them to be on, if they are showing progress, then we are allowed to.
And you've been
advance
providing
them.
intervention for 2 years.
And you have to have documentation that it has been occurring and that you have progress
And
monitored on
consistent
things.
and-
Is your third grade doing 2 days of math? Or are they doing all 5 days in literacy?
They're doing 3 days of literacy, but everybody is doing literacy. There is no math at all. And then Thursday was 2 days of math, and everybody's doing math. So we have,
I was just wondering about third grade in particular,
Mhm.
because of this
and when we-
possibility, are you all doing literacy all 5 days, or are you doing math, or, I'm just
Mhm.
asking about that.
Yes,
Re-
in this moment,
The
we are
promotion.
doing 4 days of literacy, and with the plan of eventually rolling to the 3 and 2 days.
Okay.
When we wrote the HIT grant, we also accounted for including more third graders than we did fourth and fifth. Fourth and fifth is still included, but we looked at our third grade numbers and intentionally included more
Okay.
to cover
Cool.
more students.
Now, you doing 3 consecutive days?
Yes, sir. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I'm just asking, why not do Monday, Wednesday, Friday? And do math Tuesday, Thursday? Because you'd drive me nuts doing literacy.
Well, I think the carryover, day-to-day carryover is probably better for them, the retention of it, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, getting it each day opposed to skipping a day, probably at that
And
age
the
group
lessons.
would be
And
the
we do
appropriate.
not- I
Also,
would
they're
not want to
traveling across the
do.
building.
Yeah, from
that
spot
on
to
Friday,
spot.
Literacy on Friday. I'd like to get literacy done Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, because they'd be done with it by the time you get to Friday.
Mhm.
I assume, no, if the data leads you, you'll adjust.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Some of the Thursday, Friday was, so we had some teachers that felt pretty strongly about making sure that math had an opportunity because.
Oh, and I get it.
The original
I get
plan
it,
was
but you know where my brain comes
I know.
from.
And you know,
The original plan looked a little different.
A
Yeah.
huge shout out to just our teachers, because, when you are departmentalized for instructions, that's definitely your wheelhouse. And we absolutely have, math teachers saying, hey, what can I do? What can I do to support these students in literacy? And then we also have math teachers, or, literacy teachers on math day saying, hey, what can I do? Give me something to do to help them in math. And so that's been very, very encouraging. And then there's been some other pieces of data that we've looked at just last week. And the students that we were looking at were already receiving intervention. And so that was just one more indicator that we had chosen the right students to get in the right intervention. So it is absolutely still evolving as we continue to add more students and plan for them. But when you take on that big of a task at the beginning of the year, when 260 or 70 of your students are new to campus, it's a
Have some kinks to work out.
large undertaking, so it's been good.
You mentioned the extension part. I'm sorry, I missed that. Explain that the extension process one more time, please.
So students are going to, special teachers, our school counselors, there's several, across the building. And those activities have been planned by Ms. Griffin, and they are all involving chapter books that they are reading through and then doing activities. You can walk by our gym in the morning and see literacy circles all over the gym. So there's been some really neat things happening.
And those are students that don't need intervention, is that right?
Those are students that they're either on or above grade.
On or above, okay, that's what I missed. Okay, so the extension part is on or above grade level students that are participating in the extension,
And
okay?
then
Ms.
Ms.
Griffin
Griffin
is a GT specialist, and that differentiation and extension piece is in her wheelhouse.
Gotcha, okay.
And then we kinda had to do some of this in phases, and then we will start those extensions with math as well.
I left her a lot of good stuff.
You did, there's lots of
There's a lot of
Hartney
good
written in
stuff.
many of the books that we are
We're
using.
passing around.
Thank
Any
you for the
more
clarification.
questions for Heckler?
Sounds great.
And, we all said, this is a fluid idea. If, if at the end of a certain period of time, we need to adjust it, but we can't look at the numbers we're looking at, not try to do something different. Like, that's just kinda where we all landed. And our teachers really have, we can't say enough about their flexibility just to try something different, cause it's hard.
And also
And their
the
schedules are not easy.
flexibility to move students. If a student if we have 4 students in a group and 3 are progressing and 1 is not, we now have the ability to move that student immediately to a group that better fits their needs. And that, I mean, we've already made those adjustments, and so that's very encouraging as well.
Okay, we ready to go on to Pinkston? Mr. Smith is, doing football duty, but I have a text from him. So there, y'all can see on the screen, they do win daily what I need. They do have what they call content areas having priority weeks, and I'll let my secondary principal speak to that a little bit in just a minute. But they are, you know, there's a lot of different ways you can try to get your growth score to increase. We have a lot of students that are just right on the cusp, that with a little bit of support, you really can tip into that next category. They do have a focus on that, and all of that's data driven with Atlas summative data that they received. And then they also have, for their lowest quartile, they built some extra response days into their tier 1 instruction, which if you think about that learning ladder that I showed you, they realized if they were gonna also target bubble kids during WIN, they were gonna have to build in some more response time into tier 1. And so they'll slow down that essential standard work a little bit so they can intervene on the grade level pieces that they need to. So that's a strategy that they're working through. And then the bottom quartile students are identified. That's very easy, like Ms. Dewey said, it's very easy to build a spreadsheet around that. And then, like I said, working on extra response days, and they do have dyslexia services built into their day. That usually is during their study skill piece of their schedule, and they also are doing after school tutoring. So lots of things they're working on, but that is where they've started this year with intervention. And again, we're all trying to go back to that theory. You can't be good tier 1 instruction. You don't need as much intervention if you have good tier 1 instruction. So that's part of the idea too. Any questions about Pinkston? He's not here yet. Okay, let's move on to our golden nuggets over here with their good grade. You want to go first, Ms. Majors?
So the way we set up our RTI this year was we looked at our data from the spring, which we had looked at previously, and so saw that our literacy, when you look at our data, was in need of support. And compared it all is that literacy is where we wanted to focus. So what we did was we broke it apart by strand, identified our lowest quartile kids, broke their needs apart by strands, put them into groups. So I have 5 literacy teachers, and then Mrs. Strider or TOSA also teaches a group. So they have these kids divided up, and each of them are focusing on a particular like theme or something that they're working on, a skill set. So they will be there for 9 weeks until they take their next interim. So really intense. They go to the same place every day for 9 weeks. Intervention, and then in 9 weeks when we get our new data back, we'll go back and look. Some of them may need to shuffle inside of that, and some of them may be ready to move out. The rest of our RTI, math and science have priority weeks. So they get them for 2 weeks in a row. So science gets the kids for 2 weeks, and then math gets to pick, and they get them for 2 weeks. So they just rotate based on that. And we also applied for the HIT grant for our 8th graders. Our 9th grade, the way their scheduling works, it didn't quite work out as well. So we did that. We also offer the after-school tutoring as well on Tuesday, Thursdays for our kiddos.
Any questions about when it's their priority, what are they using to choose the kids that?
Thank you. I wrote that down. I forgot. So we have RTI scheduler, and we have somebody that manages that for us. And so they go in. Like I said, those literacy kids are locked, but as a science teacher, I can go in and see which kids are available, and I pick them based on a common informative assessment that we've given in our classroom. So I can see, okay, like this kid doesn't know this skill, this essential standard. So I'll go in and pull a group, and we will target that essential standard, and then I'll have them for 2 weeks, and then in 2 weeks they go back into RTI scheduler, and then somebody at math gets to pick. And the kids, they know when they come to school school, it automatically sends them an email at 7:30, RTI scheduler does, and it reminds them, so in case they forget over the weekend where they're supposed to be, they can go in and check their email, and they have an email that says, hey, you're supposed to report to Mrs. Major's RTI that morning. So,
Do they assess at the end of that 2 weeks that essential standard that they
yes, so they,
worked on, so they can know, this kid got it, or?
They do. So they're placed there based on that CFA, and then our teachers are really great to go in and they, work on them with those skills, and then they have some type of like a mini exit ticket or a mini CFA that they go back and they just see like, can they get this, whatever the target is that we're working on, and then they rotate them out.
Are CFAs graded, like for a grade?
Depends, sometimes. So they give them, like, our teachers are really great at doing it's almost like a pre-assessment, so they'll do the CFA just to kind of see where our kids are. So 60% of them already know this, so that kind of helps me gauge as a teacher where I need to target. And then we go back, at the end of the unit and give it, and then it could possibly be for a grade, just to see if they've, got the overall.
I was just wondering if they could replace, after they had their intervention, if they could possibly reassess and
Yeah.
help their grade too,
So
or.
it would look more like a common,
They just need a little more time.
summative assessment,
Yeah.
but it would target those same skills, yes ma'am.
Great.
All right, Ms. Russell, you wanna kind of tag on? There's some similarities, but some differences.
There are, so high school looks a little bit different because we only have one grade level that's assessed with Atlas. So every student in my building needs a little bit, something a little bit different. So RTI, we also use RTI scheduler, and we have priority weeks. So every week is a different priority week as to who gets to I hate to use the word draft, but that's kind of what it is. So this week is open. So anybody can draft. It's like whoever gets to the kids first gets to draft them into their RTI sessions. It sounds kind of crazy, but just kind of stick with me. This is the first year we're doing it like this, but it has been highly successful because I have teachers fighting over kids.
Is there any NIL money involved?
There is not. There is not. So last week, for example,
Yeah.
science
Yeah, teachers coming to
I'm outta
school
here,
earlier and
mother
earlier because of that.
But last week was a science priority week, so science teachers got to go in and pull out the kids that they needed first. And then, so if I taught science, I would get to go in and get the kids that I for sure needed or wanted, or, a lot of and again, it depends on what I teach. So if I'm teaching chemistry, it looks very different from a biology class teacher that is doing preparing for the Atlas and doing CFAs. So I can answer any specific questions you have about a specific area, but that's one of the biggest things that we are doing differently this year is we have priority weeks, and they are legit fighting over students.
Tell what you're doing.
Not fierce, but good part of the
Are the
time.
tested areas given priority to choose first? or-
Yes, so we have math, science, and literacy priority weeks, and that's the way. And this open priority week, like we're in right now, is for our, foreign language, CTE classes, because kids, believe it or not, do struggle in those as well. We also, admin, so I have a session, it's a study skills session. I have about 70 to 80 kids in it each day. And so it's just for kids who need, maybe they're not missing a skill, but they just need somebody to have their thumb on a little bit.
Maybe they have missing assignments.
Or they had a volleyball game late the night before, and they just need a spot to sit for a second and catch up. So, I'm running those 3 days a week. We have RTI Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Monday is an advisory period, but something new that we have done this year, it's not just them with their advisor. We are pulling them into Dunbar, every academy. We're pulling them in as a group to Dunbar and also dishing out information. So today, for example, we did a bus evacuation drill. We talked to them about community service hours. I gave them a little, pep talk about some disciplinary issues we were having. So it's another opportunity to not just target academics, but some other intervention pieces because again, my kids, we're about to send them out in the world. So there's some different pieces that students need, and so we've been able to do that through advisory, and that's worked really well.
They have hall monitors?
We do have hall monitors to
New
make
this
sure
year?
the kids aren't,
Those
having
are
their
some
own
adults.
interventions somewhere else. And so, that's been really good, but it has been extremely successful. Kids are showing up and they're doing the work, and I've been very pleased with where we are.
And it says 2 to 3 times daily?
That's a typo.
It should
Is
be
it
weekly.
weekly?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
sorry, that's me.
Yeah.
I may
So
have
2 to
told- I
3
may have
times-
told her.
No, we're,
Okay.
thank you for catching that, I mean.
Typo.
Okay.
We have also applied for a HIT grant, I don't mention that. We have identified in the 10th grade, our bottom 25%, and we're hoping to get a HIT grant to help those geometry and literacy students. So we should find out hopefully very soon.
Should have already,
Um,
but we didn't.
Because one of the things that we have found with our math students in particular, there's some basic algebra skills. And so that's what we're hoping to target in the geometry, with our geometry students that are in the lower 25%.
They're talking about the HIT grant. We were supposed to find out Friday. We got an
It's for
email
high
that
impact
said,
tutoring.
yeah, we don't know yet.
No,
High
no, but
impact.
High impact tutoring.
High impact tutoring
okay.
grant, that was in
That's the
Learns.
grant, okay.
And they said how many schools for how many $1 million
Oh
applied.
gosh,
It
we
was
had, was it?
160 for,
160 some
or something for
applications.
18,
So
it was wild.
What does that, is it a
Different.
program
So
or is it
there's a
computer or is it-
list of vendors that you can choose from if you decide to request a HIT grant. We chose Amplify for Hackler, because it's tied directly to Dibbles, and we wanted the progress monitoring that could come from that. And then we chose Carnegie Math for 8th Math and 10th Math, because they just come extremely highly recommended. Ms. Strider and I spent a lot of time on Zooms with both companies. It was a lot more involved this year to apply for the HIT grant, because they have more people applying. Very competitive. And so the vendors have realized that we need help filling out all the requirements for the paperwork. So they will have teams that you can Zoom with, and they'll go over all the documents with you and help you write the grant correctly according to what the program will do for your students. So we spent, I just want,
A lot of
we're gonna
days.
get it.
A
So
bunch
it's
of
gonna
days,
just be
a bunch of
great.
days.
It's gonna be wonderful. We just really, really want the programs. I think they would work perfectly with what we're already doing in the buildings. So hopefully any day we'll find out.
Mr. Rose doesn't have anything on here, but he has changed
know
his
he had anything
focus.
to put
He's
on
really
here.
been working at his building with some different focus areas. You wanna kinda,
Sure. Yeah, so ours is kind of a tale of two worlds, I guess, two cities, but you got we got 6-8 on one end of the building and 9-12 on the other, and so they look a little different. I did task my teachers at the beginning of the year though with disseminating that data and breaking into all of our test scores and everything. They did identify a lot of kids that's just right on the verge between level 1 and 2, level 2 and 3, so they went in and broke them apart and found the ones that felt like they could grow a few points. Now, that being said, we do not get a letter grade at our campus. However, our goal as an AOE program is to transition kids back to the regular campus at some point. So we are all working under that same umbrella. So if I send a kid back to Kingston or to junior high or high school, the goal will be for them to be on grade level when they get there and continue that growth. Jeff told me once it was like breaking a wild horse. He's like, I'm gonna break them and get them reined in for you and keep them, and then that way you can take them and get them to where you need them to be. So I'm pushing mine to do a little more than that. We're trying to break them. We're also pushing grade level curriculum day in, day out. My 6th grade and 7th and 8th, they work closely, especially 6 and 7. They attend some of Mr. Smith's CT meetings over at his school. I'll make time for them to jump over there and sit in on those so they can stay up to date with their essential standards and be teaching the same thing. One thing I did last year is ensure through our last year of our grant that we had the same curriculum as everybody had district-wide. And I purchased that for as long as I could, some of them for 6 years, so I could go ahead and pay it ahead while I had the money. But they've done a phenomenal job. In my 6th through 8th grade, they just grabbed hold and they asked, they said, can we please have an RTI period at the beginning of the day? That's the time when our kids are the most fresh, attentive, and ready to work. And so I made that work in their schedule. So that first period of the day, about 40 minutes, is their RTI time. And 2 days a week they do literacy, 2 days a week's math, and that 5th day, sometimes it's a social science A lot of times it's kind of an extension actually for the whole group. For instance, last week, they kind of challenged them when I seen some of Kingston's things get posted that they were doing to come up with it to keep pushing. And they turned out a product of the invisible ink, kind of like on the back of the Declaration of Independence on National Treasure. Yeah. So they went through all that. So they're still trying to keep them engaged and push them and things like that. But the thing is, my ELA teacher, she came from a lower elementary background, and she's using some of those skills. So when we were digging through the literacy scores, we had some scary low students in literacy. And she's like, I don't even know where to start, so I'm just going to dibble. So she dibbled all the 6th through 8th graders that she has. She didn't find 2 kids that were on a kindergarten level, and so she's actually doing connections lessons with them twice a week during that literacy intervention time, while the other 2 teachers are pushing more literacy interventions through the curriculum, through IXL, things like that, through comprehension of reading skills, things like that. And then the other 2 days are math, and we've got already also, so we collected that beginning of year data. So they've been very data driven. We've got active spreadsheets that Ms. Alvarez is maintaining and grabbing and data walls, and they are constantly tracking that data. In the past, we've just tried to ensure that we grew in some area. I've challenged to make sure they grow a level. Now, that may not mean we have them for the whole year. They could go back at the quarter, or go back at Christmas, but our 6th through 8th graders will see the most testing of any of our kids. And whether they're with us or back across the road, as we say, we want to ensure that they're prepared to grow a level. And that's huge for our kiddos. High school, we've challenged them with more reading. I've challenged my teachers to ensure that they fall into those big 3 district commitments. And so you will see when you go into, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's literacy, whether it's math, you'll see that target and that concept. Ms. Dewey said it earlier, it's easier to work towards something if you know what your goal is, if you know what your target is. So they have a current and active target tied to their essentials, but so the kids know what they're doing each day. And I feel like that's simple but a powerful piece that they're doing. And it's not just for fun. I told the teachers, if you're doing it just to leave it up there and it never changes the whole year, you might as well erase it. Because I need to make sure that it's active and the kids know what they're talking about, and they do. Still not saying it's perfect. Might still have some older ones that come to school and sleep all day. It's not because they're not trying to get them to teach and learn and grow. Critical reading class has been successful. Mr. Lynn does that, not for 9th and 10th grade. Phenomenal work he's doing with those kiddos, and tracking that and growing them. Biology had great scores this past year. They identified several kids even that was going to be seniors last year, that were seniors last year, and juniors that were reading at a really low level, and they got with Laura Strider. She came over and helped them get a plan of intervention. So we are also preparing those kids that's about to graduate, which is another big focus we work with. And Ms. Russell is trying to keep them graduating on time. She'll call me and say, hey, I've got some, there's no way they're going to make it to the finish line if we don't really get like over the top on these and send them over. So they look a little different in high school, I'd say. We get some for some bad decisions, but also we get a lot that's falling way behind with credits, right? And we're afraid they're going to age out, so to speak, and we're going to lose them. It looks a little different. We really hone in on the 6th through 8th graders. I want to ensure that we're growing them just as fast as we can, and just on the essential skills, and get them to get to where they need to be, so they're prepared to. And we do a lot of extensions. We got Twin Lakes Literacy. They come in and send a person in each week and work with their middle school kids on social skills. We've got a group that they work with each week, and then we've got special guests coming to tours, and then we take our older ones out to other businesses and locations to try to put the carrot in front of them to dangle why they need to get a little more motivated to go see some of these workplaces in the area. So it's a lot.
Guyberry still its own LEA,
It does not get a letter
but
grade
it does not get a letter grade.
because of the charter and because it's an alternative. There are only 2 LEAs, is that right? 2 ALEs
Charters.
in Arkansas that are their own LEA with the charters.
How many students do you have?
Well, we started out a little low, but we're growing rapidly. We started out
That's not
around,
good. As good as that.
around 50-ish when we started the year. We're probably pushing up closer to 60 now. We've gained several. A couple of area schools we have MOUs with have sent us a couple more.
When you're talking about sixth through eighth grade, you're really concentrating on those, students. How many of those on average, as you say, get to go across the road?
Transition back. I'm just counting between, so last year I'd say we transitioned back about half of them. And we ended up running close to a 20 last year.
We had a
We
lot of middle
large-
schoolers
large
last year.
middle school class, but
It's
only
down right now.
2.5 teachers or 2.25 is really all I had
You had
last
a
year.
lot
I got
of
2.5 this year, so that's a lot. If you consider, you know, you think of the kids that come out of there, most, at that age, they're typically behavioral issues. The older ones, we get a lot of credit deficient, but the young ones are all behavioral. So we try to, you know, it helps the home classes, getting them out of the regular ed classes to allow those kids to learn at a higher level. But also you're putting a lot of kids that have behavioral issues all in one room together sometimes, so.
Do you find that most of them are lacking more in reading than anything else?
Not necessarily, probably not
Sometimes your most
necessarily.
advanced kid, maybe, we've had some gifted students.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just,
We've got, yeah, just as a percentage right now, I'd say I'm only, out of my ones I've got in middle school, there's probably only, which I'm up to about 14 now, so there's probably 3 of them that's extremely low in literacy. So there are other ones that are just kind of across the board, just behind 2 to 3 grade levels. That's my biggest struggle. A couple of them are really high, like in science, or really high in math, but for the most part, across the level, most of them are about 2 to 3 grade levels behind already at 6th and 7th grade. So that's tough to catch up, teach on grade level and catch up, especially some of those are kind of the one-room school settings sometimes, so it's a lot of differentiation. And that's what I didn't mention in high school, you might see one teacher have about three different classes going on in one classroom during one period. So it's pretty unique.
I'm super proud, of all of the principals for the work they've done and the challenge of what are we gonna do differently. I mean, they've stepped up to the plate for that challenge, and thank you. Mr. Rose, thank you for the academic focus at Gaveri, because that's a
small
challenge, and
piece.
you
They
said
affect-
it's a
they
challenge.
affect a lot, but it's fun watching them grow. It is fun, and when they get a little success, they know they can do more than they have been, so it's really fun. It's probably I don't know, maybe, I've been at a regular building, it may be just as much or more rewarding to see those kids grow than the whole building full, because you get so attached to them.
So, we have just a list of the things we've talked about. Was there anything in particular you wanted to point out?
One of the reasons we did this is because you guys have made a lot of, resource decisions to support some of our pieces we talked about, and so this is just a reminder of some of the things y'all have approved over the last few months, really. Some programs and things, and we still have some training. We have some build training about to happen, and we have, Alex is, if you're not sure what Alex is, that's a math program that goes with our secondary math classes, and they can use it for lots of different things, but you can use it, it works extremely well for RTI and intervention, so.
Well, Nelson Wilkes is using Bill, what is, it's not the first time I've heard of it,
Well,
so
I
don't know what
it's a little bit like it's kind of an accelerated version of Connections, for lack of that's a very condensed explanation. But they do move at a little bit different pace, but it does help. We're trying to offer, what we realized is we were offering like kind of a one-note intervention system, and we need to offer multiple. Some it's the pace that's holding them back, some it's the skill itself. So we're trying to do some different things where there's options for how to move the kids. Was there anything you want to add to
No, I have not been build trained, but we did have
Sarah
three,
Trevor.
yes, Sarah
Three
Trevor
teachers.
and 3 teachers went. And so I think the thought behind offering other programs also, when we're running Apple Connections, for our tier 1 instruction, and then we're also doing
The
Apple
same thing for
Connections as the intervention, that's not always being successful for every kid. So we have to
Just trying to
offer
add a variety.
other
So
alternatives.
it's like a K-1, 2.
It is,
Uh,
yes. And there is a Foundations
make
of
awareness
Sound
of
piece
Foundations
that
of-
kindergarten has used some, that's almost like a pre-connections,
Okay.
and that's still available, and then, this would be, we really wanted, it's almost like a pilot year for build. We wanted to see if we feel like we need more groups that are moving kind of in that direction, or if we feel like 3 is enough for the building, so that this was a little bit of a pilot for
And the
that.
state- a
And it's
state
highly
coach
recommended. Miss
told
Tribbett
me
went
about
to a
it.
training on it, and she was really excited about it after she did the training. And she did the training with, wasn't Vicki King, but it was one of our,
Somebody, Sandy Shepherd or one of
maybe
them.
Sandy Shepherd.
That's
So we're
what I
kind of
heard
waiting to
from
see
the-
what the results
state
are for
coaches
that.
were rolling that out for their DNF schools.
And then, 95% group, that's our other new piece we're trying, that's primarily at Miss Goodwin's building. And that's another, we have 3 teachers and Miss Tribbett about to do a training day on 95%.
And so it's similar.
It's
It's a scripted program, you get materials, and it walks you through, like, it's very explicit what you're doing within the lesson. And I mean, it is phonics based, like but it's, again, a new look, it's presenting information in a little bit different way. It's not as sensory based, Connections is very sensory based, this one is a little bit less sensory based, so, just, again, this is a kind of, we're trying some new things, and we're gonna kind of see what we feel like is worth maybe investing a little bit more time and money into. So
We've been doing the same things,
where we
this
landed.
just over and over and over again, and our results aren't changing like we need them
Yeah.
to.
So how many students are getting 95%?
We have 18 in
18.
each grade level. I have 3 teachers in each grade level, and we can have 6 in a group.
And that's the nice thing too, because Connections, you're limited to only 4.
Okay.
But,
And-
and we liked that about 95% group, it lets you have more kids in a group.
And we would love to add some more.
And then Bill,
Bill has 6 students in a group.
6
Yeah.
students.
So the groups are a little
6
larger.
to 7 in those 3 groups, yeah, enough supplies.
But
We don't have enough supplies. for
certain
that.
students can move, I mean, we had.
Yeah, we can do multiple, like, we can,
Some
I think
of
it
our
takes
kids
like,
move quicker.
how many days to get through? And then you can, however many lessons, and then you can start a new group. I think that we'll be able to do 2 groups
2 rounds.
within the year
Yeah.
with 1 teacher, so.
That gives you yardsticks.
We're
with your
hoping
programs.
it'll help us measure a little bit better, how we need to, like I said, is the pace, are we moving too slow, too fast? Like, just, there's gonna be some choices within those programs.
But you're handpicking the students and using data,
Yes.
so those are not likely to happen.
They should be, I mean,
Will
you would
be.
think they would move pretty close together, the way they're placed.
You got it.
You would think.
The last thing, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on this, I'll send it home with you all tonight. But one of the things, figured out pretty quickly, we're asking our principals to do a whole lot of different things. We're asking them to shift the way they've been doing some things and try some things differently. Well, that's not fair if I don't do some things differently too. So what we looked at was from what is my plan, right? What is the superintendent's plan? What are the expectations that you all should have of me? And then underneath that, we have Judy. What are her expectations based on my expectations? And then the principals have done the exact same thing. So it's kind of an umbrella of, here's a deliberative plan of practice, a very specific plan of what we're going to do and what we need to be looking at. Judy falling under that, the principals and assistant principals. Because we're asking our teachers to do a lot too. We're asking our teachers to look at things differently. We're asking our teachers to get out of their comfort zones. And how can we do that if we're not willing as administration to do the same thing? So I did go ahead and link mine and Judy's plans. Judy linked her own, but I did, and then I have a copy of everyone, all our principals and administrators' plans. Some of the things that I do think, based on conversations that we've had, that need to be looked at over the next few months, I would like to look at, I've already visited quite a bit with Hackler and Miss Goodwin about looking at schools within a school type arrangement, which is just basically physical locations of classrooms in her building and how she is monitoring that. And I think that's something that we're going to continue to discuss. Looking at possible, should we be looking at K2 buildings? Possibly have 2 K2 centers. We've seen some things with transitions. with our kids, that could really help. And we're gonna be having some more conversations about that over the next year or so. You know, if Miss Goodwin's able to move her teachers around, is that not a catalyst for looking at K2s that push into those 3 school within a schools? We've looked at this before, we've talked about this before. We called it, help me. SLC, Student Learning Communities. So nothing changed except as far as what grade levels were in what buildings at that point, but the same 4 or 5 kids, 4 or 5 teachers had these kids, and those kids went to these 4 or 5 teachers the next grade up. The alignment of that can be very beneficial, and we see that in neighborhood schools. That's not what we have. And that's okay, but what can we do with our current system to create some of that alignment? So that conversation we'll be having over the next little bit. Another conversation I'd like to have with high school is just scheduling. What does a 7-period day versus a block schedule look like? What could be beneficial? So I know I visited with all of you about that, and that is something I'd like to set up a committee for at the high school and get some conversation going about what that looks like and what the future, where we could head. We know that just having that face-to-face with kids, just adding Fast Friday added approximately 18 more student-teacher, what am I trying to say, face-to-face interactions. 18. It could add a lot of just seeing a kid opportunities, just to check up on kids. So there are a lot of things besides academics we do have to look at with that. But at the end of the day, any decision that's made, and I hope that I've shown that commitment to you, is that it is best for our kids. And we have teachers that understand that. We're doing things for our students and what's best for them. So some conversation in the next few weeks about that, and I have a feeling teachers, especially at junior and high school, will reach out to you all as that conversation begins, because there are some strong feelings both ways. The other thing, I think those were the 2 big things I wanted to mention to you all, but you have access to these plans. I'll give them to you today as well. We went ahead and made copies of those, but I just hope you're starting to notice a shift in the culture of how we look at things, and you know what? Success breeds success. Miss Russell, tell your story about your kid that saw you so pumped up about your bee.
So I made an announcement as soon as she let me know that we had made our bee. So I get on the intercom, make my announcement, and the kids don't understand why I'm so excited about a bee, because it's not an A. And so the kids they're not satisfied. They're not done. They want an A, so we're chasing an A.
Very awesome. Cool.
And I feel like you're going to see that at all the buildings. Today was a 3rd grade work day for literacy. Got a lot of work done, and I think our 3rd grade teachers got to talk to some 4th and 5th grade teachers who kind of said, hey, our kids can do this. Let's all get together and get to work.
There's one thing, and you and I have talked about this before. If we make a change, you guys make a change, and if it don't work, we back up and start up. We punt.
Back up and punt
Yeah.
if something doesn't work.
You look at something and you got it all figured out and said, this is gonna be great, and it just flops. We've all been there. It happens to somebody. So don't be afraid to make changes is what I'm saying. Because adjust, because the world's moving faster than we can. And unfortunately, you guys didn't get to grow up in the 50s and 60s, so you don't know what real life is all about. You guys have got it a lot harder than what we had it in the 60s and 70s. Teaching, school, we had the same classes every day, same subjects every year. They advanced a little bit, but we didn't have the advanced classes. Chemistry is about as hard a class as I ever took in high school. And now you guys are doing calculus and everything else. We didn't have that available. So, push. My daughter still hates calculus.
I'll say this, I think it was me that asked you that question, hey, what are we doing different this year so we can expect a different result this next year? So this was a great, at least from my perspective, this was a great look into that answer, a detailed look. And I, for one, I'm really excited about hearing these changes. Like, everything that y'all said made me excited, and I can see the vision, I can see where we're headed. And yes, maybe something won't work just right, and hey, we'll reevaluate next year, but I, for one, am really excited about these things that we're doing different, and I'm really excited to see the results next year that come out of it.
Sounds like we've got a pretty good plan.
Yeah.
Or you girls, you ladies, you young men.
And there's a lot of, we all recognize the amount of work that's gone, and it's so easy to sit back and keep doing things the way we've always done them. So I thank y'all for that extra work, for putting your heads together, and hey, what can we do different? So really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the resources you granted us. We've asked for some new things, and y'all said yes, so thank you for that.
Well, there's gonna be some hard decisions to be made in the next year on the school board. Money is gonna be tight, and there might have to be some cuts. So, I don't like taking anything away from anybody, especially that's, it's like, this is the only reason I come to school. But, we have to do what's best for the overall school body. And,
Achievement is not where we wanna cut.
Yeah.
right, exactly,
Yeah, I mean,
but, there's gonna be some hard decisions in the next 6 months, 12 months. And, so remember that when how we've supported you guys, and if we come to you and say, well, we gotta cut this out, don't be too mad at us.
Ms. Dewey shared some things that, hey, we're gonna look at it in the future, such as block scheduling versus 7-period. One of the things I've asked Ms. Dewey about a couple of times, and mainly because my kids are elementary, you hear a lot about summer slide, right? Hey, it takes 9 weeks to get that kid back to where they were at the end of the last year. And I'm not a professional educator, so I don't know the unintended consequences, the second and third order effects, but one of the questions I've asked her is like, is there any benefit to changing up our calendar, so where instead of having 12 weeks over the summer, we shorten that summer period, and we still have the same number of contract days, but we spread out the breaks, maybe take a bigger break in the spring, a bigger break in the fall. I can see a lot of benefits to that, where our kids aren't out of the classroom for such a big block of time. Those kids that are relying on breakfast and lunch, et cetera, they're not gone. I can see a lot of benefits to it, but like I said, I don't know the unintended consequences, so that's one of those conversations I'd like to have as well too. Can we change our calendar so where it makes, certainly for the elementary principals and those students, it's not, well, the transition in that summer slide, where we're not till middle of October to get them back to where they were in May.
Are you talking like more like a trimester schedule?
Trimester, something like that, right? So instead of 12 weeks for summer, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks for summer, and we take a bigger block in the fall, a bigger break in the spring, where we just don't have that large period where they're just not even thinking about what they've already learned. Right.
See,
I actually
I'm on the
researched that a
opposite.
little bit.
I have too. There's some data that actually supports that a lot, though. And
Marginally.
but the
It's already done.
retention is a lot better, and there's a lot of carryover to that because of the slide. They're more, and actually in a trimester, a lot of times they actually get more time off over the course of the entire year, a little bit, but yet they get.
Well, we also paid teachers this summer to do a little bit, and that's when I came back and asked Ms. Dewey, why are we paying teachers to teach something in the summer, to have an extension? Why are we not shortening the summer? The other thing with that, I know there was a reference that sometimes low-end kids are missing a lot. I'm experiencing a lot of people I know that high-end kids are missing a lot. They're taking vacations whenever they want. And even high-end kids, if they're out of class too much, that's gonna hurt. It's just, there's no way it can't hurt. Well, if you have longer breaks throughout the school year, maybe some of those vacation days can be restructured in the fall, in the winter, in the spring, where it's not when everyone in the United States is taking their breaks.
Well, I will tell you this, the state of Florida tried year-round school several years ago.
This is like a longer
and
Christmas
it
break,
failed
longer fall
miserably.
break, right.
They-
Have a couple
they-
weeks
I think
off.
that's-
It's not necessarily year-round school, you just
When you're
have
talking about
longer.
trimester, you're doing the same thing. It's year in, you know, you're just dividing it up 3 ways instead of 2 ways. And you're extending your breaks.
I really did research this over the summer, just because I'm weird like that, I like to do stuff like, I didn't find the evidence to back it up, to do it. You might, but I didn't.
So calendar.
I was surprised.
Calendar conversation will be, I have been looking at policy, calendar does start with PPC. That doesn't mean that, I plan on bringing a calendar to PPC. One of my priorities is to get some days in the summer, and this isn't a secret to anyone. We struggle to get days for our teachers to work together because there are quite a few what we consider contract flex days. Not flex days, contract flex time. There are 5 days built into our current calendar. If we could have a few of those days when our building principals could have teachers on site all together working. Today, we wouldn't have needed the day today that we had substitutes for in 3rd grade. I'm just being very honest. They needed time to work, but if that day could have been done at a different time, I don't know how popular that would be. I'm guessing it probably won't be very popular. However, I do plan on presenting a calendar to PPC this year, and I've talked to folks about that. That's not a secret. And I don't mind pushing back the start date. I think we just have to decide what the priorities are. Are the priorities of the calendar does have to be voted on. PPC does have to present a calendar to you per policy. That doesn't mean you have to vote for the calendar that is presented to you, but it just goes back and forth through PPC according to policy.
One of the problems.
That's how calendar is developed according to our policy.
One of the problems with starting all this earlier and earlier all the time is your maintenance. You cannot get your maintenance done. You cannot get everything done that it can only be done when there's nobody else in the school.
Sure.
Could that be done on a flexible schedule though, or does it have to be the same week in
rotation.
the summer? I mean.
It'd have to be some type of rotation.
Yeah.
But that can be created.
Absolutely, I think it
rotation.
could be, yeah. I think you could create a rotation where it would be the same once the
You
rotation
get it once a
schedule's in
year,
place.
it just may not be in July.
Just be an adjustment to the timing of it.
But one of the biggest problems in the summertime is mowing. The maintenance crew is mowing.
It's just something to look at. I think our calendar ought to be as big a tool for our academic success.
For sure.
As anything else
But
we
like
have.
Marcia said, she couldn't find anything that supported it.
I couldn't, someone
But did you find
else
anything
might-
that negated it? I mean,
I
there's
couldn't find anything.
2 sides.
To really show gains that I
So it's
actually
zero
went
effect.
into
Zero,
thinking it
zero
would.
effect is a good.
Is that right? Zero effect either way. I mean, it's
It-
negligible. Is
Yeah,
that-
it was I mean, there were just tiny margins, and it was subpopulations, and, you know, some subpopulations that we don't
Were you
really
looking
have.
at like schools in the US that do trimesters?
Just that extended school year.
Yeah, okay.
I couldn't find, I went in thinking, oh, this will be easy to find, and it wasn't.
You have to watch too. One thing on scheduling is testing. You have to make sure that you're done with the course before the April window.
It would be interesting,
Marion has
Arkansas
a-
has
They do.
that type of calendar.
Do they still? Do you know if
So-
they did? Do they still?
They do
They
still.
do.
Mhm.
Texarkana, maybe? Is it
Hot
Texarkana?
Springs,
Hot-
maybe?
Hot Springs did.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they have now. I'd have to look. But there are some schools that do have, and it is considered year-round.
And I like to
It's
see
what they call
current
that.
Yeah.
as far as
research on it, like
calendar.
school within a school, there's a large 2024
Yeah.
study on that, but I couldn't find this.
Yeah.
If it can be found, I'd
We
love
call this your
to.
DDP.
Well, I think our education model
I
in the US
thought
is-
it would, but it just didn't show up, so that was weird.
I think our
I mean, this
education
is
model in
the
the US is
LEDP.
actually the only one
That's
that
working.
doesn't do a year-round school. We're actually one of the few that have a traditional semester
Something else
based,
I gotta
you
remember
know,
what it fans.
Not that
Oh, yeah,
matters much
we'll
more.
educate all of our children.
You know, you talked about a committee, you're looking
Yes,
at some
sir.
of these things, maybe this is something where, I don't know, a committee looks at, or is PPC, who's the ones who actually gonna
When you
dive in and
look
look
at
at it? but
PPC does
just-
calendar.
It
Yeah.
is PPC. I mean, that's how our
But they'd be
policy.
the ones that would look and, hey, here's the pros and cons, and here's the.
I can
yeah.
ask them, absolutely.
Like I said.
And Miss Morgan, we can get that conversation
But
started.
that's
as
any
soon as-
it'd be
certified
good to have
personnel,
it
so
Mhm.
started.
administration
Can all be there. They can even
you
attend the
can-
meetings, they just can't participate. They can
but you
listen.
can offer up choices
Yes,
or
ma'am.
calendars.
Yes, they can bring it to PPC, yes, you are.
And then PPC usually puts out, selects several, and then puts it out to all certified personnel to vote.
Certified
And then I
and class-
assume
I mean, it's-
CPPC
it's
does the
all
same thing.
Personnel.
CPPC generally will take the options from
From
PPC.
PPC, and they vote.
Because a lot of quite a few of our classified are 247s, which is a full year. So it's kind of like me, let's just all come to school. We're gonna be here, right? So whatever the calendar decision is, the only thing I feel strongly about, I'm gonna be honest, and I think the people in this room would agree, is getting them some time with their people during the summer. And we do have schools across the state that have a week in the summer on their contract, and those days are taken off
And it's
through the year.
required.
Mhm.
It is, you can turn in days, like personal days.
Unless you're sick, we'll have a personal day, but there's just a week, or, and I was just gonna try to get us a couple days, kind of maybe gradually get to where, and it's already, I think Miss Major had already had, you've already had a little pushback even on the ideas, so we'll see.
So you're taking days from the
The
regular.
CT flex is what I would do, or flex PD.
Putting them all together in the.
Could, or
summer.
maybe just 2 of those 5 days that are currently CT flex. It's, very hard to, just be a couple of those days where our folks could work together, and our teachers
It's
could
hard
have
to
them.
do all the planning in the summer before you even have your current class of students. Like this time of year would be a great time for the teachers to have a work day together.
And
because they've
that
got
could be
data,
work
they know
days
their
built into the
kids,
calendar
they-
even. You
Yeah.
could get maybe 2 days in the summer, and maybe an October date. I've seen several schools that have had an October date recently, several districts, because they have all the data now.
Would those be just like non-student days?
Like we
So
used to
we're
have.
tacking them- Oh, okay.
You could do that, you could do a couple in the summer, there's all kinds of
Right,
options.
yeah.
I know back,
Make that calendar
We're not
work.
adding contract.
No, ma'am,
No.
no, ma'am.
All right,
No.
never mind.
I knew
But
that.
a CT flex might turn into
A work day, wherever on campus.
they would have to be on
Together.
campus for that.
but it would be required to be there. Cause I
So
remember
wouldn't
back,
it
way back days, of course, we'd have Thanksgiving break,
Mhm.
but the teachers had to attend school Monday, Tuesday.
Yes, those are flex days, flexible professional development days now, I believe that's what those 2 are. They're either that or what we consider contract flex time, which is, recorded hours of work outside your contract that you're over. Anyway, that's just something that I'd like to discuss, the schedule, I'd like the 7-period day, same as Ms. Partney. My research doesn't show, the day, the schedules are kinda like this too. You get, the gains you see mainly are math and foreign language. However, we have a generation of kids that, I don't know who was it that said it's kinda like a TikTok generation, everything goes fast. So, there's options.
Yeah, the TikTok attention span.
There's options, and there's nothing wrong with having discussions and looking at things.
You know, there's a reason the preacher only preaches 15 to 20 minutes on Sunday.
100%. But then you go to
Well,
small
I
group
think
right
about
after that. Then you do
absences for really important events like Bomb Squad or ROTC. If you miss a day, it's like missing 2 days of instruction versus 1 period, so the student-teacher contact time.
I will invite, when we do get these committees, especially the 7-period day committee, the PPC, Ms. Morgan will represent you all, but, which you still can come and sit in the back. As far as the committee for looking at scheduling, I'm gonna figure out a way to get everyone invited. I don't think everybody can attend that unless you just kinda sit there like a fly on the wall. The schedule is not a board decision necessarily, but it's definitely something that is a pretty, a topic that I believe the board will be involved in.
If nothing else, community can reach out to the board.
Community, teachers.
And that's a big voice.
Students, you know, how do folks feel? It's something we've been doing for a long time, and change
That would
is
be
very hard.
That would be a really hard change for most people. Not saying it's not good or bad either way, I'm just saying that.
It's very hard.
When you got these people who take 2-month vacations.
Oh, the school calendar. No,
Yeah,
I'm talking
school
about the
calendar,
summer
That, you know.
But you know, it used to start after Labor Day,
Yeah.
and now we're starting the second week of August. So
Still
in
do that
some
same
ways,
time.
we've been making the change just gradually. So I don't know that it's really that big of a leap. Now, I think getting out May, 15th, 16th, you talk about the student slide. Just a little stunned that we're getting out so early.
Well, just the graduating people are getting out early.
No.
No.
everybody.
No.
Everybody getting out
School.
15th?
Yes, sir.
Everybody. Graduation day is the last day of school.
Yeah. See,
So-
that's, we started after Labor Day, first Tuesday after Labor Day, and we got out about the 15th of May.
But did you take 3 weeks over Thanksgiving and Christmas? Like,
No.
Of a 6-week period, 3 weeks of
Then
them
you had a
off
week
in
of
that
spring
middle of
break.
stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't have spring break.
But
That's right. So we've already started making the shift. I'm just saying, we've been doing it.
Mhm.
We're just asking to, what would it look like a little bit more?
And then
Just
you're
to help
asking, you're
ease all
asking
these
people
things.
to come in the hottest time of the year.
Today was pretty hot.
It wasn't 100
You stepped
degrees
out.
hot.
Yeah,
It
we-
wasn't
we've
100
had 'em.
degrees hot,
Yeah.
guys.
I'm
We're
not-
getting way
it's-
off in the weeds here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
But-
are. Yeah.
But you're talking about adding expenses to your budget.
It's just something you gotta look at. It's just look at all the aspects. It may or may not be a good idea, but it's not an idea at all if you don't research
Oh, I'm
it.
not against it, I'm just
Yeah.
telling you things that,
Absolutely.
yeah, the unintended consequences.
There's a lot.
Needs to get
Yeah,
looked at,
absolutely.
yeah.
yeah.
And I commit to you to taking that to PPC, and that discussion will happen, and may even get a calendar put out to folks with that option. Let's just see what our teachers think.
Question for you
Too.
is, since there's
Absolutely.
a state law says you can't start school before a certain day.
That's not a rule anymore.
Oh, they did away with it completely?
That's why everybody starts.
That's why
so early.
everybody starts so early and gets out so early. You've got lots of options. It's the only rule that I, per se, the difference in what is our calendar called? We're on hours, but we're considered traditional. It's either less than 6 or 7 weeks of summer is considered a year-round calendar. It's just the name. It's the box you click in Eastwood. I just can't remember the exact number of weeks.
I'd be interested to put it out there and see what the parents of these kids would say. And, just say, hey, if you had your choice, would you do this if you was going to get?
I'd like to see data that says when we made this change, our test scores improved by this much.
Right.
Or I would rather see
Sure.
that.
Absolutely.
And then I can buy in, because the only reason I'm here is for our students' achievement, safety, and how to help you all lead that.
I'll see what.
The only reason I'm here.
I can't get a hold of, I know we can get Marion fairly easily. I'm gonna look and see at those others.
You thought Lynn might be one.
When? It's, certain parts of the state.
It'd be
I'll see.
good if we could find one with similar size and demographics.
Not sure, I can.
It's gonna be tough.
Marion's our same size about, but,
Because when I researched it,
Demographics-wise, I'm not sure.
demographics were the only points of change. And we don't have the population that the biggest or any growth was shown. I was surprised at what I researched and found. I thought I would be wrong, but.
I'll see what I can find and, report back to you. And then, of course, PPC is this week, and I'll go ahead and kind of put this out there to them. And,
They're not gonna be- yeah.
It's
When
Wednesday.
is that? I don't get any on that,
So,
Guess you don't have to go then.
I guess I don't have to go.
7-period day, I'll get
There
back
it
with,
is.
we'll, continue that discussion as
I've
well.
never heard anything from the PTO people.
I can work on that too.
Well, you'll have to wait till after December 7th, because I'm busy right now.
I'll work on that as well. Is there anything else? Read over these in all your spare time and these plans of practice and let me know your thoughts. Yeah.
I would like to say, lots of good ideas, lots of good investment time invested in this, and I think you girls and the gentlemen are doing a great job. And like I say, keep on pushing the
We're
envelope.
open to other ideas.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you though.
I so move.
I second.
Okay, we're done.